Are urging the government to make a clean exit from the EU as their party conference gets underway in Birmingham today. And UKIP leader Gerard Batten joins us from there now. Good morning to you. What's the main message that you're wanting to get across with your interim manifesto, Policies for the People?
Right. Well, the main message is that we want to be a populist party in the real meaning of the word, which is that we want policies that are actually popular with the general population so that they'll vote for us. The first policy will be the primary policy of UKIP for the last 25 years, which is to have a clean, as you said, a clean exit from the European Union. We fear that we're going to be betrayed over Brexit. Mrs May has no real intention of taking us out properly. So my job and UKIP's job is to restore itself as an electoral threat, because it was that electoral threat that achieved the referendum. And now we have to put the pressure on to say that either we get out of the European Union cleanly or UKIP will be coming after your seats. We will be losing people their seats in marginal seats on slim majorities. That's our strategy at the moment going forward. And I want to build UKIP as a force for the future. I want to point it in the right direction so that it's a real force in politics. And of course, if we had a fair voting system in this country, proportional representation system, which is another policy that's in this manifesto, then of course we would have had MPs years ago and we would now be a major player in the House of Commons. We labour under a very difficult situation, the first past the post system, but we had a real effect without having one MP elected over the years, and I want to see us achieving that again and going forward to the point where we can actually get MPs elected to Westminster.
You're saying that you see yourself as being a major player on the political stage. Some would say that you're moving towards the far right, or you're actually courting the far right. How would you address that criticism?
Right. Let me address it this way. For the last 25 years, and myself and everybody in UKIP has worked to restore our country's former status as an independent democratic nation that's governed by our politicians, elected by us, sackable by us, in accordance with our traditional laws and customs and constitution. Now, if that makes you far right, then I think whoever thinks that has got a very strange idea about what constitutes far right politics.
What about
have always been a democratic party.
Bringing Tommy Robinson into UKIP?
Well, first of all, that's something that isn't going to happen in the near future. The rules would have to be changed to allow that to happen. As I'm on record of saying, I think that is something that I personally would approve of, but it's a matter for the party. It's their decision. It's not mine. I'm not a dictator. And I'm going to gauge the mood of the party on that as I mingle around today. I'll be very busy over the next 2 days talking to many of those 1,000 people who are coming and see how they feel about it.
But it was your decision to attend a rally organised by the Democratic Football Lads Alliance. Their Facebook page criticised for racist rants continuously, and you spoke on their platform, a platform after which arrests were made.
Yes. And I'm glad you've raised that, because you give me an opportunity to comment on the absolute disgraceful coverage of that by Sky News. When you portrayed that as an anti-Muslim rally, I'm just about to tell you, because it wasn't an anti-Muslim rally. It was a rally on behalf of justice for women and children, victims of sexual abuse, that I went along to talk because they invited me. The DFLA actually organised the rally, and the people who caused the violence at that meeting, we've had a chance to investigate that, and we know the names of those people, and none of them were members of the DFLA. They were not followers of DFLA.
But
they were interlopers who deliberately came in order to cause violence.
You did stand on a stage.
It would be great if you actually...
You did stand on a stage and talk about sexual crimes, attributing them to a religion, the religion of Islam. That's on record.
And I'm not the only person to do that, because people who have studied the ideology of the religion, it does actually, traditionally, throughout its history, make sex slaves legitimate. That's possible. Their prophet had sex slaves.
That's not the ideology
of Islam. There is...
That's not the ideology of Islam.
Do you know about Islam? It's in the Hadith and the Quran. It's a tradition that that's okay to do that, and people take their prophet as the model for all time and a perfect human being. So if he did something, then it's okay for other people to do it. The problem is with the ideology, not individuals. I have never attacked individuals. I always talk about the ideology, and the ideology is the problem.
But you're attacking the entire religion of Islam, which doesn't espouse to actually advocate sex before marriage. Many attributes. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. It does allow people to take their followers to take sex slaves who are not of the same religion. Kuffars, infidels, can be taken as sex slaves. It's one of the conditions of warfare that they have. So it's no good telling me and the world that it doesn't happen, because everybody knows it does happen. And as for ideologies, I'm against totalitarian ideologies. I hate communism, hate Nazism. I don't want to live in any way, shape or form under a totalitarian ideology. And if you look at every country in the world where Islam is predominant, they're either very repressive regimes or are they regimes that are in conflict internally. And I think that is something that we have to be very wary of.
When you speak about particularly the situation in Rotherham, and that was something that you spoke about on the platform, you isolate that as a Muslim crime. You never, for instance, speak about the crimes of the Catholic Church in terms of sexual abuse of children. Why is it that you don't speak on a broad spectrum? You isolate it to Islam.
Well, I was on there talking about specific victims, and if you read, there's a very good book on this whole subject called Easy Meat by Patrick McLaughlin, which details all of this over about 30 years, 20 or 30 years, and how it's been swept under the carpet. And it is predominantly people who follow that religion who are causing this problem on a national scale, which is the industrialised sexual exploitation for money and for their own perverted purposes. So that happens to be a fact at the moment. I'm happy to condemn paedophilia and child abuse and sexual abuse wherever it occurs. I don't have a problem with that. As far as I'm concerned, it's a reprehensible crime, whoever commits it, and I'm happy to... Well, you're asking me now, so I'm condemning it. You know, if I'm invited to speak... I was invited to speak at that event. I can only go to an event that I'm invited to speak at. And so I think also, although you have those crimes in other institutions, we know they go on everywhere, they have no ideological justification. They have no basis which people could argue that this is permissible under the branch of that ideology that they choose to follow. And I know
your predecessor, Nigel Farage, took great care to make UKIP a mainstream party. He has said that you should be advised as to the company you keep. On the platform that you spoke at that rally, he suggests that perhaps you shouldn't be keeping company with the DFLA. What do you say to that?
What I would say to that is that I wonder why Nigel said that, because Nigel is friends with Donald Trump, that a lot of people like and call names. Nigel has gone to speak on platforms in Germany with Alternative for Deutschland, which a lot of people don't like and call names. And he's entitled to do that because they are democratic parties. And I'm entitled to speak at rallies organised by people who believe in democracy as well. So I think that maybe he should be a little bit more careful about criticising me.
But from somebody as yourself,
he has done similar things.
You've called Islam a death cult. Do you think you are the right person to be speaking on such a platform, and you're objecting about Islam and Muslims?
Well, they can invite other people as well if they want to. There's plenty of democratic politicians out there that they can invite. Depends who would accept that invitation and go and speak for them. A lot of people don't want to address this problem because they're too frightened to talk about it. I meet people all the time now, and this isn't just in relation to this issue, but now people are fearful of speaking out because they are losing free speech. It can have consequences for their jobs and careers. I feel that I have a moral responsibility to say what I think is true, because I'm in a position to do it. I'm a leader of a party. I don't need a job next year. I can retire. I can go off and get my pension. There are other people out there who've got jobs and livelihoods, and they are becoming increasingly frightened and fearful of even admitting they're members of a political party or stand for Brexit or have other views which are perfectly permissible, but it's becoming more difficult in our current climate for actually to express those views. We've got police forces who too busy, can't be bothered to investigate burglaries, but can come around and knock on your door because you say something on Twitter they don't agree with.
Just one last point. For those that might say UKIP is a racist party, I'd just like you quickly
You're determined to go down this road, aren't you?
To justify these elements in your manifesto. You want to repeal hate speech guidelines. You want to repeal the Equality Act of 2010. You want to shut down the Equalities and Human Rights Commission. And you want to shut down the Government Equalities Office. Yeah. That's hardly in keeping with diversity and a multicultural society, is it?
Right. First of all, we had perfectly good laws against incitement to hatred, incitement to violence, causing public disorder. The problem with the hate crimes is it's what anybody's perceived notion of a crime is. And it doesn't even have to be the supposed victim. It can be a third party who can say that's a hate crime. Well, that's nonsense. This is kind of totalitarian territory where somebody can say, oh, I think that person is guilty of a crime, therefore they're going to be arrested and investigated and possibly charged. Under English law for centuries, you had to be guilty of a specific crime in law, not somebody's opinion of whether it constituted something or not. That is a very dangerous path to go down. And we had perfectly good human rights in this country under our own English common law. We didn't need to adopt human rights legislation which came from the European Union, and we've seen the havoc that is causing.
Gerard Batten, thank you very much for joining us. I just want to make sure that you still stand by your statement that Islam is a death cult.
Well, study its history for the last 1400 years, and if you take an impartial look at it, you might come to that view as well, Gillian.
OK, Gerard Batten, thank you very much for speaking to us this morning on Sunrise.